Good morning, club members. We digest world-class journalism and talk it through in plain English. Here are 5 stories worth your time. Nvidia is teaming up with major Wall Street firms to raise over $500 billion. This enormous pool of private capital will build data centers and buy advanced computer chips. The agreement includes major global investors such as BlackRock, KKR, and Goldman Sachs. It is perhaps the most ambitious financing plan ever attempted in corporate history. But why does a microchip designer need to organize $500 billion in loans? Building modern artificial intelligence requires a staggering amount of physical infrastructure and electricity. Analysts believe global tech spending on AI hardware could top $8 trillion soon. Public stock markets simply cannot provide that much ready cash on their own. Tech companies are therefore turning to giant private capital managers for help. These investment groups control huge pools of money from pension funds and insurance companies. They are eager to lend cash if they can earn reliable interest payments. Lending billions to young tech firms still carries serious risks for private investors. If an AI startup fails, specialized servers can rapidly drop in financial value. That is where Nvidia offers a clever solution to reassure cautious Wall Street lenders. Chief Executive Jensen Huang announced a special safety net for these loans online. Nvidia may guarantee up to 25% of a project's remaining value. Nvidia promises to absorb part of the loss if a borrowing customer goes broke. That guarantee works just like a mortgage insurance policy for computer hardware. It lowers the financial risk for lenders and unlocks cheaper interest rates for buyers. Over the past 16 months, Nvidia already spent $90 billion backing smaller companies. But managing a $500 billion credit structure takes that strategy to a whole new level. Instead of just selling silicon chips, Nvidia is acting like the central bank of AI. It helps its own customers borrow money to buy more of its own hardware. This ambitious deal is still subject to final negotiations before any money changes hands. It ties the fortunes of Wall Street lenders directly to the future of AI. If demand for AI services continues to boom, everyone profits handsomely. But if the artificial intelligence boom slows down, lenders could face heavy losses. We will soon see whether private debt can safely sustain this record-building spree. Moving on from tech investment, our second story takes us to Russia's retail market. A wave of drone strikes is hitting the country's biggest online shopping platform. The company, called Wildberries, works very much like Amazon in Western countries. Over 20 years, it built a network of 90,000 pickup points. It connects over 79 million monthly shoppers with more than 1 million sellers. Most of these sellers are small local businesses selling clothes and home goods. Together, these online market networks represent over 8.5% of national GDP. In smaller communities, families rely on these hubs for basic daily necessities. So why are distribution centers hundreds of miles from the front line being targeted? Ukrainian officials claim these logistics hubs distribute components for military drones. Both the Kremlin and the retail company strongly deny these allegations. Whatever the strategic reason, the economic damage hits ordinary households very quickly. Since mid-July, strikes have damaged or destroyed at least 20 large warehouses. When a single hub burns, products belonging to thousands of independent sellers vanish. These merchants have already paid manufacturers, transport fees, and local taxes. When their inventory burns, expected sales income disappears immediately, yet they still face employee wages, loan repayments, and supplier invoices. Company contracts classify drone strikes as force majeure, an uncontrollable event that limits compensation. One merchant reported receiving just 5% of their lost inventory's worth. For buyers, destroyed hubs mean delayed packages, empty online listings, and rising prices. Earlier strikes hit oil refineries, causing fuel shortages and queues at petrol stations. Now, the war reaches directly into living rooms and local collection shops. The government can support large state industries with emergency subsidies. Protecting millions of private daily deliveries across a vast country is much harder. For ordinary families, the conflict is no longer just news on state television. It's felt when the local pickup point has empty shelves. The remaining question is how much financial pain Russian small businesses can endure. If these commercial lifelines fracture, the illusion of normal domestic life may end. Moving from drone strikes in Russia to our third story, we head to Tokyo. Why are Japan's famous neighborhood pubs, known as izakayas, suddenly closing down in record numbers? In the first half of this year, over 100 pub businesses went bankrupt. That is the highest number recorded since official tracking began almost 40 years ago. More than 90% of the failed pubs were small businesses with under 10 employees. Researchers expect total pub failures to set an all-time record by the end of the year. These small pub owners face a painful dilemma right now. If they raise their prices to match inflation, regular customers stay away. If they absorb the rising expenses themselves, their profit vanishes completely. The price of food, electricity, and rent keeps climbing across Japan. Take one small Tokyo pub that serves straw-seared bonito fish. The wholesale price for that single fish quadrupled over 3 years. The owner shrank his menu in half to manage ingredient expenses. He also raised menu prices every 6 months, yet his profits still sank. At the same time, drinking culture in Japan is undergoing a quiet shift. Office workers still meet after work for a quick drink together. However, late-night second and third rounds of drinks are far less common now. Fewer people stay out late drinking, which cuts late-night sales significantly. A proposed tax cut might make drinking at home even more popular next year. The government plans to lower the tax on supermarket food to 1%. If buying meals to eat at home gets cheaper, fewer people will visit local pubs. Independent pubs also face fierce competition from large fast food chains. Ramen shops and burger places now serve cheap beer and pub snacks. Industry forecasts show the market for traditional pubs shrinking by nearly 1/3 in coming years. Meanwhile, the market for fast food chains is expected to expand by over half. Major restaurant chains rely on smartphone ordering apps and efficient logistics to save money. Small local pubs usually cannot afford such expensive tech investments. Diners are also becoming much more selective about where they spend their money. Cheap drinks and convenient locations are no longer enough to attract loyal crowds. People now look for special signature dishes or unique experiences when eating out. Small pub owners must find a clear edge to stay afloat. Without big changes, Japan's cozy night out could gradually disappear from city streets. From Japanese pubs closing down, we turn now to our fourth story today. Spain is offering legal residence to over 1 million undocumented migrants. Anyone living in the country for 5 months with no criminal record can apply. The 1-year permit lets people live and work legally in Spain. Spain's Prime Minister argues that an aging population leaves huge gaps in the workforce. He believes regularizing these workers is vital for long-term economic growth. However, this decision has triggered a sharp argument across Europe. Sweden's Prime Minister called the Spanish plan a very bad idea. He warned that it could push Europe back into a major migration crisis. Sweden accepted many asylum seekers back in 2015. After that influx, The country struggled with deep integration challenges and rising gang crime. Leaders in Italy, Germany, and Denmark have also voiced serious concerns. The main disagreement comes down to how European borders work. Spain's new permit does not give migrants the right to work in other EU countries. However, it allows them to travel freely inside the Schengen area, Europe's borderless travel zone. The Swedish Prime Minister believes many migrants will quickly head north. He argues that one nation cannot relax rules without hurting European solidarity. In his view, open internal borders depend on strict, aligned rules at the outer edge. This conflict also connects directly to domestic politics. The Swedish Prime Minister faces an important election next month. He has campaigned on cutting asylum seeker numbers to 40-year lows. His government bloc currently lags behind the left-wing opposition in public polls. Pushing back against Spain allows him to show voters a firm stance on border security. Meanwhile, interest in Spain's program has exceeded all expectations. More than 1.2 million people have already applied for legal status. That is more than double the number Spanish officials anticipated. Many applicants are from Latin America and are seeking legal work. Yet European nations remain deeply split over shared responsibility. Spain sees essential workers who will support its future economy. Sweden sees a unilateral decision that threatens a delicate European system. The big question now is whether the Schengen Agreement can withstand such different national priorities. Finally, we turn to our last story of the morning. Commuters on the New York subway recently noticed some unusual advertisements on the walls. One banner promised to help parents have their best possible baby. Another claimed that half of a child's intelligence comes from genetics. Those posters came from a Silicon Valley startup offering embryo screening services. A new group of technology companies is pushing to reshape how humans are made. Rather than just checking for rare hereditary diseases, they look at ordinary traits. For $50,000, one service offers estimates of height, intelligence, and lifespan. Another firm even adds eye color and hair type into the mix. One chief executive put it plainly by saying, "Sex is for fun, but screening is for babies." Unsurprisingly, these services have sparked a fierce debate across the globe. In Britain and throughout Europe, selecting embryos for physical traits or gender is strictly illegal. Leading geneticists also warn that predicting complex traits like intelligence from DNA is unreliable. In America, regulations are looser, but resistance is still growing quickly. Religious conservatives and health campaigners are speaking out against treating children like custom products. Some investors view low national birth rates as a serious threat to the future. Because of that concern, venture capital funding for fertility projects doubled in recent years. Prominent technology investors are pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into fertility research. They hope that automation and larger scale will make test tube treatments dramatically cheaper. Right now, only 3 out of every 100 American babies are created in clinics. Most families are priced out because a single cycle costs up to $20,000. New finance firms are trying to lower those barriers by offering risk pooling and insurance plans. Industry experts reckon that bringing total costs down to $15,000 will unlock huge demand. If that happens, the market for embryo screening could grow 20-fold. That prospect presents humanity with a profound social question for the near future. If screening becomes cheap, wealthy parents could routinely buy genetic advantages for their children. Over time, that could deepen social inequality and narrow our tolerance for natural human variation. We may soon have to decide where medical assistance ends and genetic selection begins. That brings us to the end of today's stories. Thank you for sharing your breakfast with me, and I will see you tomorrow morning.